So, of course, the unemployment rate is a function of both of those numbers.
Oh, absolutely. You know, believe me, it's something to be addressed. Overall, though, it's a remarkable report. Thank you all very much, Courtney, John, Hadley. Really appreciate it. I want to bring in now the acting Office of Management and Budget Director, Russ Vought, to help break down the White House's reaction to today's jobs report. Outside of champagne and confetti, what else did you guys do at the White House when this number came out?
We're excited about it. Thanks for having me on the show, Charles. More good news for the American people. 263,000 new jobs, about 70,000 more than we expected. Lowest unemployment since 1969. This is good news for job seekers. It's good for the American people as they have more take-home pay. It comes on the heels of last week's announcement of 3.2% economic growth, which should have been a little bit lower than that, but we overperformed in our expectations, and our first quarter is always the one that lags a little bit. And so we think that there is just more and more good news that we can be excited about, and the American people are going to benefit from.
Russ, is this, and I would also add the report we got on productivity yesterday, the idea that you can get those kind of productivity gains with minimal pressure, labor wage pressure. Are these validations of President Trump's tax and regulatory policies? Is this what the White House says, hey, we ask you to give us some time, this is it in a nutshell?
Absolutely. If you remember the start of this administration, when everyone said that 3% economic growth was impossible, they said it was ridiculous, you couldn't do it. None of the economists on the outside were saying that there was any validity to it. And what this president was committed to, his economic team was committed to, was cutting taxes, getting rid of unnecessary regulations, growing the economy, getting people back to work, and it's humming. And we have been the most accurate administration in predicting economic growth. We hit our first year 2.5, last year's was 3.1, and we're already in the first quarter at 3.2%, which is what we predicted, and we think it could go higher. So we are very excited about that.
I want to ask you about that. How do you get it higher? What's the message to the public to say, hey, okay, re-elect President Trump and we'll do this, this, and this to supercharge what we've already got going?
Well, I think we can supercharge things in the area of deregulation. I think we can continue to cut regulation. A lot of those efforts take many years, and so we're not going to see the benefit of them until they become final rules and moving forward. And then we've got spending reductions that we have put forward more than any administration in history. That we need Congress to act on those because we want these economic gains to be enduring.
Russ, if Congress doesn't act on them, though, will we get another gigantic spending bill? I mean, it was sort of pox on both houses after that last spending bill.
Oh, we're in the midst of trying to prevent a $2 trillion spending bill over 10 years because what we don't want to do is have spending be a lag on this economy and getting people back to work, getting people out off the sidelines and into the workforce. So there is a lot of things to be excited about, a lot of things to be pointing towards in the future about ways that we can continue to cause the economy to grow, and we're hard at work.
Russ, there's one thing I do want to know, though. What does the White House talk? How will they attack this issue? 490,000 people out of the labor force, 250,000 a month before that. Largely young men who just can't get in this labor force, whether it's drugs, whether it's skills. There's something missing. I know this is one of the things that the president campaigned on. What's the plan of action to change that?
Many of our proposals have been designed to get people back to work, whether it's welfare reform, whether it's reform to disability programs, to get people back into the workforce. It's one of the reasons why the president's so committed to reforming drug policies as it pertains to the opioid epidemic in our country. We are trying to make reforms that get people back to work. Some of those take some time, but it's a priority for the administration.
The clock is ticking on the nomination for some of these Fed slots. Of course, Herman Cain is out. Steve Moore is out. Will this push President Trump to a more traditional choice, or will he continue to sort of have these maverick ideas about mixing up the Federal Reserve so that it also has an instinct, a better intuition, rather, with respect to Main Street and really what happens on the ground beyond academia?
Look, I think the president wants fresh thinking as it pertains to all of his nominees, including those to the Federal Reserve. And so to the extent that he's looking for candidates that share his economic thinking of lower taxes, deregulatory activities, and the impact they can have on the economy, and the fact that inflation is not necessarily going to take off, we think that that's important as a conversation to win with the American people. And my guess is his nominees will continue to reflect the fresh thinking that he has brought to this town, and notwithstanding what the experts say.
This week, the market hit a roadblock because of conflicting interpretation of what Chairman Powell wants to get done. He laid out an amazing roadmap for cutting rates, and then he pulled the rug and said, but I'm not going to do it. He used the term transitory. Some, though, are saying, well, because of the tweets, because of the pressure from the White House, it actually makes it harder for him to cut rates because it looks like he's succumbing to the White House, that he's being bullied. Do you put any stock in that at all?
No, no one's trying to bully anyone. This president has views on how to get the economy going, and he has strong views as to the policies that the Fed's going to take. That's not to say that he's doing anything other than getting his views out there and starting a conversation with the American people as it pertains to his nominees.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I got to tell you, fantastic report, Russ. Again, that would be the only area that I would quibble with. And we want to see it continue. We do. So thank you very much.
Agreed.
Russ.
Thanks, Charles.
All right, buddy. President Trump, of course, and also right now feeling the heat about these tariffs, right? The aluminum and steel tariffs, the White House pushing forward, though, in these new trade deals, particularly Mexico and Canada. Now, Trump met privately with Republican senators yesterday. He wants to ease the tension there. My next guest actually advocating for a swift passage of this deal, despite getting unseated by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.